You ready? Welcome to the December 3rd special meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call?
Council members Brotman,
Here.
Karpetian,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Asatryan.
Here. And may we have your report?
Yes, the agenda for the Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on November 27, 2024 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
All right, and what's next?
Next is item 1, community development regarding use of city days at the Alex Theater, Los Angeles Youth Orchestra. A, council motion to approve use of one of 12 annual city days at the Alex Theater for the 25th anniversary performance of the Los Angeles Youth Orchestra.
Welcome, Ms. Sack.
Thank you. As the council is aware, we have 12 rent-free days at the Alex Theater that we can use for city events or when we receive requests from the community that meet our sponsorship minimums, we present those items to the council for their approval. We did receive a request from the Los Angeles Youth Orchestra to celebrate their 25th anniversary, and staff and the Alex Theater feel that the Alex Theater manager feel that this would be a good use based on the youth orchestra hosting students ages 8 to 18 across LA County, and they have had performances not only throughout Los Angeles but also around the world. So the show is proposed for Monday, March 31st, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. And we have members from the Los Angeles Youth Orchestra here. If there was any questions specific about the show, we have Elise and Julie here with us today.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay. I don't either.
Mayor Asatryan, we have a card.
Okay.
We have one public comment by Mike Mohill. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I like the Alex Theater. It's a very nice theater. I'm glad it's owned by the city of Glendale. I would like to know, currently, how is that being managed today? Do we have an RFP for it? I know they changed service, I think about a year or two ago. How is that being managed? I think it's important that the community knows, are we making any money from the Alex Theater? I recall, I think we contribute about $500,000 a year in addition to maintaining the theater. I'd like to know the status of the Alex Theater as a citizen of Glendale, since I'm paying the taxes and so is everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
We do not have any other callers or public comment cards. Oh, actually, there's one call that just came through while Mr. Mohill was speaking, but it just said it's on item 2.
Okay. All right.
If I may for a second. Mr. City Manager, would it be okay if we had him just mention about the Alex? We haven't changed anything. It's the same management agreement we entered into a year or more than a year ago, and nothing has changed, nothing new.
Correct, Councilmember Brotman. Member City Council, SAS is the outfit that has been managing and operating the Alex Theater for at least 2-3 years now. And yeah, nothing has
3 years.
changed. Yeah.
So any information,
I believe staff brings an annual
Yeah,
report, and they're supposed
we
to
will bring
in
an annual report in the next few weeks. for
in
your
the next 2 weeks.
information.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Are we still contributing $500,000 a year?
That'll be part of the report.
I just want to know right now.
Mr. Mohill, you're speaking out of turn. Thank you so much. All right. Do I have any other questions from my colleagues?
No, but I'll move the item.
Second.
All right, roll call?
Council members Brotman,
Yes.
Karpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Asatryan.
Yes. Next item?
Next
Thank you,
item
Ms.
is
Sack.
item 2. Community Development regarding exclusive negotiating agreement 1401 North Verdugo Road, Glendale Civic Auditorium. A city council motion authorizing the city manager to execute an exclusive negotiating agreement with Events at Eden, a California corporation, for the purpose of negotiating a lease and management agreement for city-owned property located at 1401 North Verdugo Road.
All right. Mr. Calvert.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. As you're aware, we received an unsolicited proposal by Events by Eden to consider a management or lease agreement for the Civic Auditorium. This is to essentially conduct events which would ultimately be determined by the city council as part of this process and the type of events that would be there. We've had some discussions in closed session, obviously, to kind of get to the point where we're at here today. This ENA would allow essentially the proposer to demonstrate their financial worthiness, to come up with a plan over a fixed period of time, essentially demonstrate the ability to generate revenue, generate a return for the city as well. What I would note is that anything within this proposal does not change the use of the Civic Auditorium. It remains an assembly space. It does not change the capacity, has the same number of capacity. If we were to make some change in the future as it does today, there is not an expansion to the facility. It does not change the historic designation to the facility as well. If there were any changes, if this were to move through at any point in time, and we are a very long ways away from that still, we would not see any changes to the historic elements of that. This ENA would provide an opportunity to look into those matters to see if this is an agreement that the city council would be interested in. The city council can exit this agreement at any point in time. You'll notice that in the agreement, there are certain kind of staged periods where we will come back with various pieces of information at any point in time. If the council finds this to be unsatisfactory, not going in the direction of providing the information that you see this as a befitting proposal, then the council can terminate that ENA. Otherwise, very short presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Calvert. Do my colleagues have questions?
I don't have questions per se, no.
Okay. Are there comments?
Yes, Mayor Satrian, we have 2 callers and 1 public comment card.
Okay.
We'll start with the card. Mike Mohill is the first public speaker.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. City Attorney Mike Garcia, I understand that Mayor Ellen Asatrian received a campaign contribution of $4,800 from Eden when she was running for the assembly seat. She should recuse herself on this item. That's very important. She has a conflict of interest. That's my first point. Number 2, the residents in this area were not given advance notice of this meeting. Why? Ross Moyne, Royal Canyon, College Hills, no. This area will increase traffic in the area, cut through traffic also. Okay? The meeting's being held at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not 6 o'clock. Why? What are we trying to hide from the public? This is an important item. The Civic Auditorium is one of our treasures. We don't need to have it destroyed by a developer who thinks he can make a good deal out of this thing, especially when he has somebody on the council who's going to vote yes for it, or unless she's going to recuse herself, Mayor Ellen Asatrian. You know, this is nothing but a campaign contribution in kind. I scratch your back and you scratch mine. And that's what you're doing right now. I hope after I speak, you very well when people speak, you get yourself up and you leave yourself and leave the room here. Then you come back. I think you should leave yourself to now because you have a definite conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is by Beth Brooks. Beth, you're on air. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak. I have to concur with what I just heard because I also just learned that the mayor received that $4,800 contribution from Eden on Brand, which of course is a conflict of interest. And I think the fact that it's an exclusive contract should not be an exclusive contract. I am suspicious that it was unsolicited because I would think that the city attorney should at least look into emails between Eden on Brand and the mayor to see if there was anything discussed where she said, perhaps you should approach us with this contract, because there is something very shady about this. I'll be honest. You cannot have an exclusive negotiating agreement with somebody who contributed to the mayor's campaign. And again, I don't know if I could request it or the public could request. I don't know if there's such a thing as a FOIA request, for the city council, emails between the mayor and this particular business, because you cannot use the budget. You cannot have the city council be using her powers to basically contribute to her own campaign. This is very, very disturbing. Thank you very much.
Our next caller is Susan Bruselian. Susan, you're on air. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, City Council members and staff. My name is Susan Bruselian. I'm calling as a resident of the City of Glendale and as a board member of the College Hills community. I concur with both speakers, but I would like to know why this item is being presented during special session versus the regular City Council meeting at 6 o'clock. I may be wrong, but I don't believe I've heard of this proposal ever being discussed in any one of the city sessions in the past. Why isn't this being discussed during regular City Council meeting? How is it decided which items are put on special session versus a regular City Council meeting? I'd like to have that question answered, if I may. This happening will directly affect the residents in the neighboring communities, and I don't think it's right for you to have this special session and push this item through without giving an opportunity for the public to speak on it. And also, I would also like to ask why this item or this opportunity isn't being opened up to other people or businesses so they can throw their hats in the ring as well. Anyway, thank you. I'd like some of those questions answered, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final caller is Rebecca Mathers. Rebecca, you're on air. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling in regards to the project for the Civic Auditorium. I'm calling in support of this. I believe that it would be helpful for the community. We would have more spaces for the events that we would have for all the members of nonprofit organizations, and this would be really ideal for us. And I believe this would look much better for the community, and it would help raise funds and for the city of Glendale. And as far as the contribution goes, I believe the mayor was running for first day. And that has nothing to do with the city.
I think she keeps getting
Thank
cut off. I'm sorry, I think that parts of your comments were being cut off. Is that all we have? Okay. I think there were some valid questions posed by the public. I'd like our city attorney to address the conflict of interest that was raised. And before you do, I would like to note that I held an event at Eden on Brand. It's no secret, just like many other restaurants in the city I grew up in, Eden is one of my favorites. And it's a great venue to host events. But for the legality portion and the conflict of interest, if I can have our city attorney speak to that.
Certainly, Madam Mayor, members of council, our municipal code requires council members who receive a contribution within a 12-month period to not participate or vote on a contract affecting affecting the contributor. In this case, as was been noted, a campaign contribution was made in the form of, sounds like, in-kind services to Mayor Satrian on June 23rd, 2023. So that's over, almost 17 months ago. So she's permitted to participate in this particular decision. And it also complies with state law as well. There's no violation of state or our local ordinance.
Thank you. I do think that given some of the comments and the emails that were received, if you can, Mr. Calvert, speak to what it is really that's in front of us today, because I think there seems to be confusion about what stage we're at. I don't think this was supposed to be some procedural allowance for staff to go and have a conversation. So if you can please just clarify, I think that's important.
Yes, Mayor and council members, this 6-month exclusive negotiating agreement, again, is an opportunity for the proposer to kind of justify why they may be the best fit to manage this theater. It's an opportunity for the city to evaluate that. You're not committing to anything. You are not signing a contract that guarantees that this person, this individual, this company would receive a management agreement contract with the city. You are not obligated to anything from this exclusive negotiating agreement. Again, you can cut ties at any point in time. If the evidence or the information being provided is not sufficient, is not satisfactory to the vision that the council may have for the auditorium, is not financially responsible, we do not obviously move forward if council decides to do so. So we're not obligated to anything by moving forward with this.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I will add one other portion of that. In terms of the funds being appropriated for this, the ENA does have a requirement that the proposer does pay back the fees that are being assessed to us by the third-party consultant that is helping to evaluate this for the city council.
Okay. All right. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments?
I have some comments. When this item first came to us, it was in closed session in May of this year. At that time, as we started to discuss the Civic Auditorium, in my mind, I thought that there should be a different type of use. When I say different type of use, we all know that there are certain events that are hosted by the city and other organizations on an ad hoc basis at the auditorium. You've got cultural groups, you've got cat shows, you've got antique shows, various other things. I believed at that time that it would be good if we sought to change that use. I had no concept as to who would be the driver of that. I had no prejudgment as to what type of use that should morph into. Recently, I think we've all received emails from homeowner groups, residents, that are essentially telling us we don't want that use to be changed unless we have an idea as to what that use is. Voting today for this, and I was all for this up to a few days ago, till I started hearing from the community. Clearly, they don't want that use changed. Now, as we've discussed before, are those just a few individuals that are loud? It goes back to what Tom Lorenz is with the city for the data-driven approach. How many people in that area want to change to a more professionally managed and run facility? And how many just want it to stay the same as it is with the weekend shows, with the city making a small amount of money on it? I'm now second-guessing my opinion as to what is best for the community. I thought a change would be good. I'm now questioning that because I'm hearing from a lot of people saying that they don't want to change. So at this point, I'm not ready to go forward. I certainly want to hear from the community. Do we want to change, regardless of who that entity is going to be or what type of change that is going to look like? We have to cross that initial threshold. Do the residents want the current use of the Civic Auditorium changed? That's where I'm at on this one. So I'm very hesitant to go forward with this at this point unless I have more information. Our job is to represent the residents, not just think what we think is best. So I'm a little bit hesitant at this point to vote for this ENA, which would get the ball rolling, which would start our machinery, our staff time, talking about projects, talking about the financials and all that. And it would be a disservice to everyone if we go down that road and at the last minute, the residents again rise up and say, we don't want to change the use at all. That would be a mistake. So that's the dilemma that I find myself in. Once not a strong supporter, once a supporter of this until recently, now questioning whether my decision is going to be reflective of what's best for the residents.
Thank you, Mr. Najarian. I believe Mr. Calvert, in his opening remarks, made a comment about that the use of this facility is not being changed. Can you clarify that?
Correct, the use will remain an assembly use. For the sake of conversation, it's much like looking at the Alex Theater. It's about the type of programming, which that would be part of this discussion and part of this investigative process. What type of programming would we like to see? Would you like to see the same programming that's there still incorporated into any potential future contract? Would you like to see that programming transition to something different? That's what allows our consultant to be able to take a look at that and find out whether or not that's even financially feasible would be a good place to start. But the actual use of the space remains the same. And again, I would also say that regardless of the type of event that's hosted there, as long as it fits within that zoning code definition of assembly space, the capacity cannot change as well. So what that capacity is now will be the same no matter what we do with that in the future.
Thank you. Do my other colleagues have comments?
I can go or I can go last. Does anyone else want
go
to?
ahead.
So I understand the concerns that the community has, but I think that there is a rush to consternation and concern where we haven't even yet arrived at that point to know what will happen to that location. The location as we see it today, the Civic Auditorium, I believe no one can argue that it is an underutilized facility and in the past has been a drain on city resources. I don't know the specific financials now, but that's one of the things that we'd like to find out through this process. And I want to clarify that a vote in support of this doesn't necessarily support the actual minting of a relationship or contract between the proposer. It's just to give us information, and it is a procedural step in that process. We have gone back and forth on this in closed session, as was noted, and we came to the conclusion that in order for us to get a clearer understanding, we have to take this next step in open session. So I know that there will be people eager to go out, individuals who have their email lists, individuals who have the ear of individuals in the neighborhood or on certain websites to make this decision a lot more than it is. But I would ask them to trust the process, have faith in what we are trying to understand about what is the best use. And I haven't hidden my feelings about what I think would have been the best use for that area and that property. Certainly it's not necessarily just motorcycle lessons and an occasional Christmas tree lot. I think it would have been better served for it to be part of the Glendale Community College campus, but as long as it is a city asset that's underutilized, we have an obligation to review every proposal that is brought to us and vet it to see if it's something that's council is even willing to consider moving forward with. So, I respect the comments of my colleagues, but I think that we shouldn't give in to some of the calls for fear and anger so quickly. We should allow the process to take its course, and respect what our staff, the work that our staff would be directed to do.
Mr. Garpetian?
Sorry. I was surprised to see this item on the open session agenda. My understanding was that it's going to come back to closed session at least once or two more times. Usually, this is my third project as an ENA or as an RFP type projects that I've been involved in. We usually, if you have an interest in doing anything with any of our facilities or parking lots or any of the buildings that the city owns, we usually come up with the terms. We decide what the terms are. We decide what we would like to see in that location. We get some public input during that process, and then we do an RFQ or an RFP and find out who the best candidate is. They come in and bring their proposals, their financials, their future goals for that location or the facility, and then we decide which one is the best one. This gentleman or the Eden Events, is that what it's called? Eden Events?
In your report, sir.
Yeah, I know, but anyways, maybe the at the end may come up on top and be the best candidates. I don't know that, but I think we needed, and I have other questions from our city attorney that I asked yesterday. I want to get clarification on, but not in open session. But I think and there are other obligations that we have to discuss and see if we want to go through it or not, and that is our financial obligations that is going, to be asked from the city as to how much money do we need to spend in that facility in order to make it viable for the use that this gentleman is proposing. And I don't know if I have the appetite for that at this time. And also the neighborhoods, of course, it can go either way, but they're the ones who are being, affected the most, the ones that live up against this property, and they're going to be, more traffic, more of everything. They have the right to know what's going on. They have the right to be able to put their input in. I know we say that during ENA there will be public outreach or what have you, but usually we're doing this the other way around. I think we need to do an extensive outreach and first find out what do we want to do with the facility. Do we want to change it? I don't want to change it. Sometimes no change is a good thing. I lived in that area for over 25 years almost, and when I drive up and down Verdugo or Cañada, not much has changed, and that is a good thing. Too much changes is not good for our neighborhoods, and that's why when they wanted to do a development push in Glendale, they concentrated everything in downtown, came up with downtown specific plan to stay away from the residential neighborhoods. And now it's being changed that these things are trickling down to residential neighborhoods. And again, I think I needed another closed session to clear other issues up, but it came up on my understanding was from our last closed session. If I'm crossing the line, Mr. City Attorney, let me know. I don't want to disclose our closed session discussions, but my understanding was that we are going back to closed session and discuss this project furthermore. So, and we have an SLA issue as well. I mean, we have to clear that up if we want to do any project anywhere before getting into an ENA with anyone. And this is not the first ENA that we've done. The ones that was done in the past, we went out for an RFQ, then an RFP, and then we chose the one that the city council decided is the best for the neighborhood. But that's my 2 cents on it.
Councilmember Brotman?
Yes. Before I make my comments, I do have 2 questions, if I could start with the 2 questions. One is the question of why we're doing this during a special meeting as opposed to the evening session. Can somebody just clarify how we made that decision for this item and how we generally make that decision? It's probably not for Mr. Calvert, it's probably for Mr. Galanian to answer that.
Yes, thank you for that question, Councilman Brotman. Typically, in advance of scheduling items for council meetings, between city attorney and I and department heads, we try to, as you have experienced some very lengthy meetings in the evening, we try to rearrange the order of these meetings, so some of them will go in the afternoon to lighten up the agenda for the evening meeting. But for transactions such as this, as Alex Theater, we have always done it during the special council meetings and not regular evening meetings.
Okay, so we could have gone either way. There's not a hard and fast rule. Well, I'll come back to that in a minute, but let me ask another question is, and this is for Mr. Calvert. And again, I don't want to step into what we talked about in closed session, but we decided not to pursue an open RFP, but to go through this ENA process, discussing with Mr. Kojayan's proposal. Can you explain why, in your understanding, I know we could have done an RFP, and but why did we kind of conclude that an RFP might not be the best, might not be the best, most efficient way to go about this? Can we discuss that or not?
I think what I would suggest is Mr. Calvert explain why, from the staff perspective, it might not be wise, but rather than speaking as to why the council, because you're basically, if you enter into this ENA this afternoon, then you're making that decision not to RFP, so it's being made right now. But certainly, Mr. Calvert could explain why, from the perspective of staff,
that would be helpful.
Why he perceives it as a good.
Mayor and council members, as Councilmember Kasakian noted earlier, it is our responsibility when we receive an unsolicited proposal to bring that forward and have that evaluated from council. So through those discussions, and then also us just looking at that from a historical perspective, there has been very minimal interest. I think in my tenure here, or just slightly before, there was one additional consideration that was asked of, and it would not be a viable means to utilize that space today, given the now historic nature. At that time, it was not historic. We haven't essentially had, for lack of a better term, people beating down our doors to manage the space. We looked at this from the lens of also similar to the Alex Theater as well, and you heard Mr. Galani reference, and that's why here in the afternoon, but it just wasn't something that was generating a lot of interest, and this was something that, an opportunity for us to maybe take a look at it per council's direction, and here we are with the ENA discussion instead. Okay,
thanks. I think that all makes sense. So I'll just tell you, from my point of view, I guess I'll come out in a different place than Mr. Garpetian. I think the Civic as it is now is underutilized. I think the stuff that goes on there is fairly uninteresting, and financially we could do a lot better. It's an asset that isn't performing for us, if you want to think about it that way, and we are not rolling in money, so anytime there's an opportunity to improve the value of an asset or the performance of an asset, I think we need to look at it. I also think that between the Civic and all the parking lots that are up and down that segment of kind of Verdugo Cañada, it's a very dead zone. And my vision would be, and it's mine, it's not the whole community, but I'll speak for myself. My vision would be that we activate that area and make it more walkable, make it more lively and entertaining, maybe with some, coffee shops, and make it a place that people want to come spend a little time at. And it's right across the street from the college, integrate it with the college better. I think that area has a lot of potential, but right now it's basically a driver's dead zone. It's a bunch of parking lots and an underutilized Civic. So I think we should do something there. What exactly we do, I don't know, but I don't believe in leaving it alone. I don't believe that the way it is now is good for the city as a whole. And I live 10 minutes from there by foot, so it's part of my neighborhood as well. I think as far as this situation that we're facing now, it was an unsolicited proposal. It looked interesting enough to us when it came in, at least to me, I'll speak for myself. It looked interesting enough to want to evaluate it further. I think we realized that without an ENA, it would be difficult to really get a commitment from the proposer to spend the time and money to, release confidential financial information, pay for somebody who would help us do the due diligence that's needed. So it seemed like if we really want to find out whether this is something viable, we need to do an ENA. And I agree, I agreed with staff's view on an RFP. We could do an RFP. We could have done an RFP. We still could do an RFP. But as Mr. Calvert said, we really haven't seen any interest in doing something at this site. So we thought, I thought that would not be a good, efficient use of our time. So the point is really to see if this is viable, to understand the cost, understand the revenue potential. There's no intention to kind of negotiate something and then come out and plop something on the agenda and vote to sign an agreement and move forward without an active public engagement process. And I will say, if it needs to be said, that coming out of the end of this ENA, wherever we land, and it very well might be that there's really no great potential, but wherever we land, I want to make sure that we do go through a robust process of talking to all the neighborhood associations, and because we've got Verdugo Woodlands, we've got Royal Canyon, we've got Ross Moine Mountain, so talk to all of them and anybody else. And so I want to make sure we do that. We also might come out of this and say we are going to do an RFP, and we'll see if that's something we want to do. But this doesn't preclude us from doing that. So, I guess where I think, at least speaking for myself, I went wrong is I didn't think through how this might be perceived, because it says negotiating and or agreeing on exclusive negotiating agreement. I think it has landed in a way that I kind of should have thought through more. I'm willing to support it. I think it might be better for us long-term if we were to move this to an evening session, maybe in a couple weeks, and spend a little bit more time in just with staff reaching out to some of these neighborhood associations and having a bit more conversation. Because I think part of it may be not wanting to change the use, but I think a bigger part of it is just, hey, what the hell is this? This is coming out of nowhere. So I would be open to taking that approach if there's support to maybe put it off for a couple weeks, put it on an evening session, create some space for a couple conversations to take place. But fundamentally, I think this is probably, this is the right thing to do. We should enter into an ENA. We should flesh this out, see whether it's viable, and take it from there.
I have one question, actually. My question is for staff. I know that, I think there's a lot being made of this more than there is. I appreciate comments from all my colleagues. I want to ask staff, how is this ENA, the exclusive negotiating agreement, which allows staff to look more deeply into the proposal without it being done necessarily behind closed doors, and with us being able to assess whether the information we're receiving is accurate or not. How does this differ than the exclusive negotiating agreements or some of the proposals that were brought forward to council regarding the Rockhaven site? I know some of it was prior to my time on the council as a council member, but I recall a number of folks coming to council and council members sitting here now, perhaps even supporting the steps to negotiate proposals or look into proposals. How is that different than what we're doing here?
Mayor and council members, I don't have the full history of all of those types of projects that we've moved forward. What I would say that whether or not we do an RFP, we would still have an ENA that would be required in order for us to be able to vet certain information, to gather certain information. I do know ultimately we did end up in an ENA with Rockhaven itself. I'm not sure if Mr. Galani can provide a little background on that before the
Perhaps,
ENA,
Mr.
but-
Garcia, you've been here the longest out of everyone. You could,
I was here, I can answer.
well, I asked Mr. Garcia, although I appreciate your willingness to jump in, Mr. Carpetian.
I was here before you.
I know, so you can.
Councilmember Kasakian, so I would say that the terms generally of the ENAs, similar in terms of giving them a certain amount of time to do X, Y, or Z. I think the distinguishing factor obviously was that with respect to Rockhaven, both ENAs with Ganji and then subsequently with Avalon, both of which ultimately terminated, they were both proposers to an RFP. So that was maybe the one distinguishing factor. But again, it's legally appropriate to do an ENA in this circumstance. It's just what the council feels comfortable with going forward in the process.
And so the ENA does not bind us to follow through on whatever is.
Just as
negotiated.
happened with Rockhaven with both proposals.
Fact-finding information.
That's correct. And it's for both sides to determine whether or not it's feasible to move forward.
Thank you.
I haven't made my comments yet. Do you have a question?
I have comments.
You already made your comments, no? Do you have more comments?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
More comments. I think this idea of what happened in the past or what have you, as far as the Rockhaven goes, there was an extensive community meeting even prior to issuing an RFQ, prior to issuing an RFP. And council had determined what the terms of the RFP was. And then they issued an RFP. 5 or 6 companies responded to the RFP. They went through the interviews and staff did all the financial investigation, their proposals on the project, their development or their experience in that field. And then they said, they brought 3 names up, 3 companies up, and the council had a 2-hour discussion, open session discussion, and the public was involved in order to issue one ENA. It wasn't done the way we're doing it now. As I said, you may issue an RFP, and the same company that is here before us today, you may come up on top, no doubt about that. But in the past, it hasn't been done this way. We had an RFP, everyone knew what the city wanted, and they came up with their ideas and also with their financials. They came up and showed how strong they are financially, experience-wise, and submitted proposals. And council decided. And the RFP, when it was approved to go the first time with, I believe it was with the Ganji development, it was in, I went back and looked at it, it was in November 15th of 2016. RFP was prepared, the staff took time to prepare that RFP, and it was done in January 31st of 2017, so it took a month and a half. This RFP was done in 5 or 7, 8 days, something like that. But again, I see where the votes are, and huh? The ENA, not the RFP. The ENA was approved by council on November 15th of 2016, but the ENA was prepared, the complete document was prepared to be approved or signed by the staff or by the city manager on January 31st of 2017. So it took a month and a half to come up with an ENA that was, well thought through. But again, I see where the votes are, but it's okay. I mean, I'm not trying to downgrade the applicant. That's why I felt that we needed another closed session in order to iron out some of the issues, but we are here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Carpetian. So I'll address a couple of comments that were made and then just give mine. With respect to why it came to an open session, I think you just closed it with that, Mr. Carpetian. There's something about transparency, and if you have anything to say about the ENA, this is your moment to do so, and you've done it twice now. I actually think this is a healthier way to do it than to take the ENA and have a conversation about the ENA in closed session. You also made comments about how quickly this turned around. My understanding was that staff had taken from the ENAs that we've had from other projects and put that together, which is very different than starting from scratch. Without going into the details of a conversation that this council has had since, I think, what is it, like the last 6-7 months now? So it's not like, this was brought to us in November. Clearly, the applicant had provided us a proposal. This is something, for me at least, I've talked about since my time on the Parks and Recs Commission. I've seen the Alex Theater as an amazing asset that we have for the city that's underutilized. An opportunity, I remember actually when we would get the annual reports for the Alex Theater, when I was on the Parks Commission, with all due respect to our park staff, I think I was always looking for somebody that could manage it in a way that the Civic Auditorium would actually end up being a place that we can utilize for a broader scope of work than we have been in the past. The truth of the matter is, as all of you know, most of that building is out of code. And what this would actually allow for us to do is bring it up to code and have a space where we can hold our small business summit. I think when they just gave a report about the small business summit, it was noted that if it continues this way, we literally don't have a space in our city to be able to host our own small business summit. And in conversations actually with the Civic Leaders Roundtable now several times, and actually before the GC bond measure was on, part of that Civic Roundtable included the Chamber of Commerce of Glendale, as well as our partners with Glendale Community College. Glendale Community College actually noted that as part of their bond, they were trying to figure out if they can add a conference center and pay for it on campus, because there is no space in our city for them to be able to host events, and they keep coughing up money. And the Civic Auditorium became actually part of that conversation of them looking to see if there's an opportunity to partner. I know that the Chamber of Commerce time and again mentioned the need for the business community to be able to host their annual dinners and holiday parties and so forth. So I do think that there's definitely a need. I hate the fact that we are limited in our city with where the corporations and the businesses and the nonprofits that we have are able to host their events. And, I love the Civic Auditorium, so I want to see it be upgraded and be used in its full potential. So that's where I'm coming from. I know there were also comments made about referring to the proposer as a developer. I'd also like to note that as part of that package we had received, he had noted his passion for historic preservation. He's someone that grew up in our schools, in our city, and lives actually in that neighborhood. And so I think as we're looking to do the community outreach, my understanding is the ENA would allow for us to look at the financials and see if it's even feasible for us to do this. And I think that if there isn't feasibility, there's really no point in having community outreach for a project that's not feasible. So this document today does not bind us to anything. I think it just gives us the opportunity to see if it can even be done. So that's where I'm at. This is a procedural thing for staff to then be able to go, find out if it is feasible and look at their financials, and then come back. And my understanding is actually it's not even staff that's looking at it. It's a outside audit company that would be doing that. If you can also clarify that, Mr. Calvert.
Mayor and council members, yes, it's an outside consultant that we've used before for economic analysis, typically associated with real estate. They'll be looking at essentially the market appetite for something like this, the comparative market, and then the entire financial analysis of both what's being proposed and also the financial feasibility of the proposer themselves.
Okay, thank you. All right. What's that? Right?
What's next? What do you wish?
I
Are we
need some
looking
sort
for
of
something?
motion.
I mean, I'll make the motion for us to move forward with this, with the ENA and do the study and report back to council in open session. And I would urge that meeting to be in the evening.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
You're saying when we come back from whatever we find in the ENA?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
that would have to come back to the open
But
public.
I would stipulate that meeting occur in the evening.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and if I could just add as a friendly amendment that we reiterate that we will commit to doing public outreach.
Absolutely, I would include that as well.
Before any contract is signed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that goes without saying.
Well,
Okay.
I do want to, again, clarify, there's no contract being being signed.
Yeah.
I just,
Understood.
okay.
Repeat your motion one more time.
My motion is to move forward with the ENA with the stipulation that after the period of research and findings is complete and it comes back to council, that presentation occurs in the evening city council session meeting. And that whatever happens moving forward, that there is adequate public outreach and education about it.
Okay.
Mr. Garcia, give me one moment, Mr. Garcia. Yes?
Madam Mayor, I have a question so we know on the staff end, there might be
Hold
at
on,
some,
I'm so sorry, one second.
there might be at some point confidential information that we might, as part of a closed session, want to disclose with you. I'm assuming that's permissible as long as ultimately the discussion of the contract comes in public, which it would have to, along with the public outreach component of it. So I guess what I want to make sure. Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right.
There may be aspects of it that are brought to us, so just so again, we're clear, and I'll repeat what you said. There may be aspects of this negotiation that can only be discussed in closed session, right? And so that would be confidential, and it would
Right. I
have to
wouldn't
be-
say it can only be discussed in closed session, but it's very wise to discuss in closed session. So
Ultimately, if there was anything that was going to be approved regarding use of a public facility, it would have to be done in open
that
session.
wouldn't be required, yes. And your motion is
Need
to
to
make that.
reiterate that because I think there's going to be people out there who are going to be grabbing pitchforks and lighting torches as a result of this.
And at a 6 p.m. meeting.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Council members Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
No.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
No.
Mayor Asatryan.
Yes. And what's next?
Adjournment.
Do I have a
Move to
motion to adjourn?
adjourn.
All right, great. Second? Oh, wait. No. We're adjourned. Okay, and then we're rolling into